Many salutations to viewers and coins of the vault alike. Thanks for stopping by and checking out this chapter and part. Don't forget to check out the description below for the open casting call that I will be holding for the duration of this story. In it, there will be a list of characters as well as a few lines that you can use for auditions. Some of these characters will have one-time appearances, others will be making appearances throughout the story and have yet to have a voice behind them. But we'll see. So until next time, my friends. Sly Cooper, Rise of Vexen, Chapter 2, Part 2. Vexen stepped from the shadows to begin her search. Strangely, no personnel was seen interacting with any of the devices. As she passed by some of them, a feeling of fear would well up within her, only to die away when she walked by. 15 minutes later, she found a corridor where a few guards stood near a single door marked Personnel Only.
Bentley, are you seeing this?
Vexen whispered as the camera zoomed in to the guards.
I sure am. That has to be it.
Bentley answered as he tapped away on his keyboard when the image of Bentley split and showed Adora as well.
I don't doubt your fighting skills, but even you are no match for that many guards. If I'm not mistaken, those look like the guards of Benedict Schwartz, the leader of the Toad Stray gang. You don't want to take them head on.
Few lawbreakers don't scare me.
Vexen growled confidently.
You don't get it. They are not like the criminals you are used to. They will make sure you die, one way or another.
Vexen thought through her options to get the thugs away from the door, but there was nothing she could think of that would be quick or silent.
What would I do?
Sly's voice said in the back of her mind. She looked up, half expecting Sly to be crouching next to her, only to be disappointed when she saw dark shadows. But Sly's voice was right. What would he do in a situation like this?
A distraction.
She thought, looking back to the machinery.
Bentley, can you see a control console nearby?
Vexen asked quietly, showing as much of the machinery as possible to Bentley through the shades.
There is a control console straight ahead. What are you thinking of, Vex?
Bentley asked as he tried to find schematics.
If I can mess with the machinery, it should get those thugs away from the door.
Vexen whispered, creeping through the overhead corridors to the console.
Are you sure you don't need backup?
Murray questioned excitedly.
Stand by, big guy. I may need some help, but not right at this moment.
Vexen answered, slowly lowering herself to the floor so as not to make any noise, while Bentley relayed instructions. As she finished with the modifications, a voice coming down the hall made her immediately jump back into the shadows. With sharp hunter's eyes, she waited and watched the silhouettes talking about something. As the voices became more understandable, her shade scanner zoomed into the shadows and amplified the sounds coming from them. To her dismay, they were speaking in German.
Wish I paid closer attention in that class,
Vexen thought, when the word listening scrolled across her vision. 3 dots scrolled a few times until the word translating flashed into sight, and the voices slowly translated into something Vexen could understand.
Ich habe dir gesagt, wir können nichts tun until we've completed the first batch. This isn't like the standard alloy you can mix and dump,
the first voice said. The sound of a second person started speaking in German when the translator kicked in. It sounded familiar, but there was an overtone of someone else speaking as well.
And I'm instructing you to use what you have created and finish this part. Don't let there be any further delays. You have the schematics, so I expect results, Russo.
With that, one of the shadows slid away, while the first continued to come closer, pulling out a cell phone and checking a text. What rounded the corner was a distinguished-looking lion with streaks of black in his mane. The soldiers guarding the door let him pass without so much as a nod while he went in, when Bentley crackled over the comm system.
I think I can find who that was. Just give me...
I know who it is, Bentley. Leon Russo is a small-time forger I busted in France about a year ago. He was supposed to be in prison for more than 30 years without parole. How did he get out?
She asked rhetorically, a stab of guilt washing over her from her former life. Once she was sure Leon was inside the office, Vexen snuck down to the console again and completed her modifications. Her changes caused a chain reaction within the machines as the production rate started to spike. Pistons began to heave and buckle until something made a loud metallic thump. Vexen ran to the shadows near the door, watching with a smirk as the guards ran to see what the problem was. While they were busy, she began to pick the lock on the door when a hand wrapped around her mouth and pulled her up into the shadows, holding her still.
Don't move,
A voice said, holding her tightly when Vexen looked down to see Leon coming out of the door with someone else, the appearance of which sent chills down her spine.
When do you think the next shipment can be ready?
Leon asked as he escorted someone Vexen thought to be the Contessa from the room.
I told you that I need a few more days. Some of the new machinery you brought me is being a bit more stubborn than I previously thought.
Out of habit, Vexen reached for her shock pistol, but stopped when she took a closer look at the spider. She looked similar to Contessa, but it was now obvious it wasn't her.
Duchess Orsina, our master, is getting impatient. I doubt that he will hold back his growing agitation much longer.
Leon answered as Alcina turned back to him, lowering her height and putting her arms on his shoulders.
Now, there's no need to fret. Once I can bring them under control, the shipment will be ready in a matter of hours.
Alcina answered, smiling sensuously before giving Leon a quick peck on the lips.
Also, I think our scientists will be much more cooperative once we have the girl.
She hummed as they disappeared around the corner into the shadows. Inwardly, Vexen shuddered as she watched them leave, when the hands around her let her go.
You shouldn't be in such a hurry. You missed him coming out.
Adora hissed, wagging her finger in Vexen's face before jumping down and opening the lock herself. Vexen followed soon after, searching the desk and filing cabinets for any kind of files. It felt like it took forever, constantly stopping to listen for anyone coming to the door so they could either hide or fight. But Vexen found the folder they needed within a desk drawer under a false bottom. Inside were pictures of Murdoth Hark, a metallurgist whose knowledge they needed to recreate Damascus steel. Vexen showed it to Adora, noticing the many angry notes about how he was being extremely resistant in helping them. Adora sifted through the papers until she found a picture of a small child in Murdoth's arms while at the beach.
So this is what he was after. They're planning on using me to get my father to do their bidding. That picture is from over 10 years ago, so I don't think they are expecting me. Does it say where they are keeping him?
Vexen read through the folder, trying to find a tidbit of information, scanning through page after page. As she was coming to the end of the last page, she saw what appeared to be a note with the words Factory A3, Wing 4 scrawled across it.
This has to be it.
Vexen said, taking the note as she and Adora left the room and ran back to the drain cover. Just as they were rounding the last corner, they slid to a stop and clumsily jumped back to hide from the dozens of guards patrolling the area.
What happened? There weren't this many guards before.
Vexen hissed.
Maybe you're messing with the machines, puts them on a high alert.
Adora answered, pulling Vexen into the shadows so as not to be spotted.
Hey Murray, I think we could use that help now.
Vexen radioed. Murray grabbed his gloves and pulled on his mask before jumping out of the door. In his excitement, he forgot to grab a coat, pulling his arms around himself and running through the drifts to the factory.
Bentley, I need a little help. What should I do?
Just do what you do best, Murray. We need to get them out of there fast. There's no telling how many reserve soldiers there are.
Bentley shouted. Murray cracked his knuckles and neck, making a huge grin spread across his face, repeatedly slamming his fist into his palm as he approached the factory.
That's all the Murray needed to know,
he grinned, rushing into the first of the guards, grabbing him by the collar and hurling him into the other. No sooner had he finished than he was already running into the building for the next set of soldiers. Inside the building, Vexen and Adora could hear the sounds of Murray's destruction, patiently waiting for their lovable hippo friend to come into view. Murray cleared the room within a few minutes and looked around for them. Adora and Vexen melted out of the shadows, running with Murray back to the factory entrance. Darius Hunter stepped out from behind the wall as they were clearing the building. with a few FBI agents standing around him.
Well. It appears that you've decided to take a different road in life,
he said with a pompous swing in his words. Murray was about to retort when Vexen grabbed his arm, shaking her head to him.
It looks like I've caught myself a huge haul. We have Blassreiter Eternal, Murray the Muscle, and the newest thief Vexen. Or should I say, Inspector Carmelita Montoya Fox,
he said haughtily. Vexen clenched her jaw hard. She managed to slip past Darius in Egypt, but Vexen knew that it would only be a matter of time before Darius found her identity. He had many more resources at his disposal than she ever did as an Interpol officer.
How's this? You come with me, and I'll make sure that none of what you've done in the past couple weeks will ever come to light. I'll even make sure that you get reinstated as an Interpol officer,
Darius offered. But there was something amiss in his yellow eyes.
What's the catch, Darius?
Vexen asked, narrowing her eyes.
Adora, Murray, and Bentley give themselves up,
Darius demanded. Vexen clenched her jaw tighter, thinking about all she had given up and all that she had gained up to this point by leaving her life in law enforcement.
I'll pass,
she answered with a growl. Darius snickered and sighed to the sky while shaking his head.
I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. How the mighty have fallen. Carmelita Montoya Fox, you are under arrest for...
Vexen charged him, crouching low and launching her leg up into his chin. Darius moved with incredible speed, bending backward to avoid the hard kick. Adora leapt at a guard, knocking him out as Murray reached out his hands, grabbing two of the soldiers and slamming them together. Vexen narrowed her eyes as she began thinking through her moves, progressively speeding up her movements until she felt a knee in her gut. Adora caught Vexen as she was thrown back by a kick from Darius. As Darius brought his kicking leg back down, Murray threw one of the officers into him and knocked them both into the wall.
Let's go!
Murray shouted. Adora and Vexen following when a loud pop thundered in the alley and pain seared through Adora's calf, bringing her to the ground. Ah! More gunshots cracked in the air as bullets zipped past Adora's head. Murray slammed his fist into the street, shaking the ground, making Darius and the agents topple over. Vexen put herself under Adora's arm and began helping her away as fast as she could, while Murray kept Darius off balance. As soon as Murray was sure the girls were safe, he ran as fast as he could, disappearing into the snowstorm that had been brewing. Darius finally stood after Murray stopped his assault, holding up his pistol ready to fire when the whiteout covered his existence. Darius threw his gun against the wall and let out a livid scream loud enough to make his throat hurt.
Captain, what do you want us to do?
One of the agents asked.
Set up a perimeter 7 miles. Call in support if you need it. Nothing gets away from us.
What about the factory? If Carmelita and the others were in there, it has to be relevant to our...
Leave it. I'll take care of it personally. Your priority is the perimeter.
Darius huffed, walking into the factory with purpose as though looking for something.
Master, what are you doing back here so soon?
A female voice asked. Darius stopped, facing the shapely spider woman creeping towards him.
How can you call yourself superior to your teacher, Contessa, when you allowed Vexen to slip past you?
Darius asked, his eyes creating a faint yellow glow around them as he spoke.
Wasn't the plan to allow them in and grant them access to the information?
Alcina questioned. Darius' lips curled as he growled in his throat.
While you were trying to make the office appear important, you forced them to shut down a vital alloy processor. You, Duchess, are the only one with the power to make these machines. As it stands, it appears that you are having trouble bringing the machines under control.
Darius looked to Alcina, reaching for his spare pistol, held it to her head, and cocked back the hammer.
You have 1 week to finish, or I will finish it myself,
he sneered, pulling the trigger as the hammer fell on an empty chamber. Alcina smirked as Darius lowered his gun and walked out of the building, when a pain-filled scream echoed through the building.
Are you sure that you can't find a way for them to be any quieter?
Leon asked, walking up to her in a smoking jacket with a glass of fine white wine in his hand.
The repurposing process isn't always pretty, and it is never quiet.
Alcina said with a smirk, chuckling under her breath as she turned around and began walking back into the shadows of the factory.